Hey folks, welcome to Roll of Law. Today I want to talk about how Wizards of the Coast, notwithstanding their recent clobbering, seems to be dead set on going forward with plans to make Dungeons & Dragons a much worse experience. And so the article I'm looking at here is from Games Radar. It's titled, Hasbro Admits It Misfired with D&D OGL and Was Too Aggressive with Magic the Gathering Pricing. So most of this article is sort of quotes that talk about basically them saying, we screwed up. We did the OGL 1.1 thing. It was a bad idea. We walked it back. Aren't we great for walking it back? And so I'm going to skip over most of that. I will link the full article in the description below. It's worth a read. Check it out. But the part that's really interesting is right at the bottom. And this is another example of a place where we need to translate from corporate speak to actual human beings. Because if I ever found myself talking like this, I would probably smash my head against the wall until I started making sense again. So let's have a look at what they said. So they said, plans for the long-teased D&D virtual tabletop service also continue unabated. Cox, that's the name of a person. I'm not mocking him here. That's his actual name. Mentions that it's on track for launch in 2024, claiming, we see exciting possibilities in all new virtual tabletop that unlocks new consumer value choices, brings imaginations to life, taps into the scale effects of user-generated content, and creates seamless remote and in-play possibilities across phones, PCs, and tablets with AAA graphics and intuitive controls. So let's break this down, because there's a bunch of things here, and they're kind of saying the quiet part loud, but they're doing it in the same way that you might talk about things around your children or your pets. Like, I've got 2 dogs, and if I'm asking my wife, hey, did we already feed the dogs dinner? I don't want to say that, because if the dogs hear that, they're going to go nuts. Whether or not they already had dinner. They could have literally eaten 5 minutes ago, and they will go nuts about it. So I don't want to say that. So I might say, hey, have the dogs had nutrition at this time? Dogs don't get that, but that's really what they're trying to play. That's the game they're trying to do here. So I thought I'd do a little bit of translation. As always, your mileage may vary. You may disagree with my interpretation. Let me know in the comments below. I'm always happy to have a friendly disagreement on things. But I don't think I'm wrong. And so far, I think I've been batting pretty well at explaining what they're up to. So when they say unlocks new consumer value choices, well, what does that mean? It means that they want to give you a lot of options to buy things that they think are of value for small amounts of money. Oh, right. That's microtransactions. They are promising that they are going to microtransaction the heck out of their virtual tabletop service. So that is concerning, because that is not a great experience for the user. And this is something that will actively make the game worse. As much as they've said that they want to make the game accessible and diverse and so forth, those goals are actually in direct contradiction of their goals of extracting maximum money out of each of you. Because if they only see us as wallets with legs, then they're going to be excluding people. I have been playing Dungeons and Dragons now for nearly 30 years, I think. And a lot of people, I've played with a wide range of people, a very diverse group of people. And a lot of people who I've played Dungeons and Dragons with are people who have been, come from marginalized communities and may not have a whole lot of cash. They're not people with, tremendous spending money, but they were able to get, a player's handbook and a pencil and some paper and, borrow some dice. In some cases, I've had people who couldn't afford any of that stuff and just showed up and borrowed stuff, and that was fine. But if we start making it so that everything you want to do in the game costs money over and over and over again, we're going to price people out. And when we start doing that, the people who get priced out first are marginalized groups, because that's where, there's poverty everywhere, but it tends to be thickest where you're talking about marginalization and oppression. So Yeah, as much as they talk a good game on that, what they're doing is directly opposite to that. Consumer value choices is the way they phrase it. And that's kind of obnoxious. Again, this is corporate buzzwords designed to try to let them signal to their investors and to, and so forth, while hopefully those of us, the rubes, the suckers, are not going to catch on. Well, sorry. Brings imaginations to life. That's just meaningless, right? That's just fluff. Taps into the scale effects of user-generated content. Well, this is not fluff. This is telling us a little bit about their plans. So clearly they want some user-generated content here, and clearly they have plans for how they're going to extract value from this. So what I'm expecting to see here is probably we're going to see a massive marketplace system where people are putting stuff up and Wizards takes a cut each time. That's what I'm expecting that this means, but I don't know for certain, but that's my guess. And creates seamless remote and in-play possibilities across phones, PCs, and tablets with AAA graphics and intuitive controls. So first, the AAA graphics and intuitive controls, we'll see, right? Because lots of places promise that kind of stuff and fail to deliver, but that's not really the interesting part. The interesting part on this is the seamless remote. I mean, that's what most of us use virtual tabletops for. I've got games. I literally just played a game today, not Dungeons and Dragons. It was Blades in the Dark, but with somebody in Poland and somebody in Scotland. Like, cool. But in-play possibilities. So what they want is a world where you're going to be sitting there playing Dungeons and Dragons, not just with pen and paper and so forth, but you're also going to be sitting there with your phone and, with your PC, with a tablet, and so that you can be hitting those microtransactions as you play. And so that all of those microtransaction things there are going to be important for your game experience at the table. That's really what they want to do, is to not just monetize your online virtual tabletop experience, but also bring that nickel and diming approach to your gaming as you play. All of this really reflects that they haven't really learned from any of the other stuff in the article. They talk about how they screwed up by going after the players with the OGL changes. They screwed up by overly aggressive Magic the Gathering pricing. But they still haven't realized that the reason why Wizards of the Coast has been successful and why Dungeons and Dragons has been successful is because there's a lot of goodwill. There's a lot of popularity. People like these games. They're fun. But what if you've been in the world for a while, you'll have seen this sort of thing happen a lot. Your favorite restaurant, you find a new restaurant and it's amazing. You go in, it's got good prices, it's got amazing food, and you just keep going back. And then after a while, the owner of the place starts realizing, this place is full all the time. Just think of how much money I could be making if only I increase my profit margin just a little bit for each person who comes in here. So the prices go up, and what were great prices suddenly become okay prices, but you keep going back because the food is good. And then eventually you go in and you chew into your steak and it's just not the same. And what's happened is they've decided to swap in the really top-notch ingredients that made it an excellent experience for cheaper stuff, because now they're making more money. And what always surprises these restaurant owners is that people stop showing up and eventually they go out of business because they've burned through that goodwill. This is a tale that happens over and over and over again. Tons of companies fall into this trap. And right now it looks like Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast are falling into this trap. But when I say it's as old as time, like literally these are found in parables, the goose that lays the golden eggs that go way back hundreds and hundreds of years. People have been talking about the same sort of greed where you just burn through the very thing that made something profitable. It's sad to see. I don't see any signs that they're going to let up. At this point, there will have been so much money and so much time put into this virtual tabletop idea that I just can't see them giving up on it. They're going to do everything they can to push this as an idea and to try to make sure what we're going to see is that everything that about One D&D is going to be intended to push you to that setting so that you can start spending money and start experiencing that microtransaction economy that they really want to set up for you. Disappointing, but not surprising. I mean, I said this before the OGL thing that this seems to be their plan. It still seems to be their plan. They're still announcing that to people. And the other thing I'll note here is that as much as they've backed down on, 5th edition and releasing stuff on Creative Commons and so forth, we don't have a whole lot of promises right now about what they're going to do with One D&D and whether the plan is to release much of anything under these provisions. So we'll have to see, but for right now, I'm not liking the direction things are going. Anyway, I've got a video already recorded that I've got to put up soon, talking about another game I like, another game that you can play instead of Dungeons and Dragons, that being Stars Without Number. So that'll be coming out soon. Till next time, thank you for watching, and see you next time.